Okay, so we need to start talking a little bit about membrane permeability, which we've touched on already. Um, we're just going to kind of continue with where we left off. So you saw we had this membrane before. There's many proteins embedded in here. You know that the membrane now is not just a series of phospholipids lined up with the hydrophilic portions inside, hydrophilic portions outside, but also various molecules, various glycoproteins, proteins, cholesterol molecules in here. Um, Basically, what we need when it comes to the cell membrane is a structure that will separate the outside of a cell, right, from the inside of the cell, because these things have different needs, right, different concentrations on either side. So the fluid mosaic model we talked about in a previous slide kind of dictates that this is a very fluid system. There are many things, many moving parts in it, various proteins that help us to maintain a homeostasis, right? Maintains homeostasis. Um, Also, the membrane, this is another vocabulary word you might see, is said to be selectively permeable. Much the same way you guys are selective about food or who you choose to date or whatever. You will notice that something that is selectively permeable means that it is selecting for some things to pass and other things not to pass. Permeable obviously means that things can permeate it or go through the membrane. So we need to talk now about what can get through the membrane and how easy it is to get through the membrane. So I've drawn a little embedded channel protein here, along with some phospholipids that I copied from Google. I found an image of some on Google. So some things that can pass easily through this membrane. Small, nonpolar molecules can pass very easily through the membrane, perhaps the easiest thing to pass through the membrane. This includes things like N2, O2, and CO2. These can pass very, very easily directly through the membrane, a process known as diffusion. Diffusion. Right? So N2O2, CO2, small nonpolar molecules pass very easily through the membrane. Um, Hydrophilic substances, hydrophilic uh, things such as large polar molecules, hydrophilic molecules. I'm going to change this to hydrophilic large molecules, or I should put and charged ions need to go through some sort of channel protein. This is known as facilitated diffusion. Okay, we'll talk about how this works later on as far as how concentration gradients work, things like that. But know that hydrophilic large molecules such as sugars, glucose, etc. Sugars and things like of that like, and charged ions, things like sodium, Na plus, potassium, things like that. These are the things that need some sort of channel protein to get through. They do not diffuse easily through this membrane. So this type of stuff cannot go directly through the membrane. Okay. Some other things that can, or one of the important things that can go through, are polar, uncharged molecules, typically small, polar uncharged molecules. Small polar uncharged molecules can diffuse freely through the membrane, although probably not quite as easily as these guys on the far left, these small nonpolar molecules. So they can diffuse through a membrane, right? So examples of these are H2O, ethanol. These types of things can diffuse through the membrane without help. However, because they don't do it as well, in some cases, and we're going to be talking about some proteins like this, we might need a little other pathway to help us diffuse stuff in a much quicker fashion. But we'll talk about that a bit later. Some cells, you might know which cells have this carbohydrate layer up here. This is a cell wall. It is made of carbohydrates. This helps to keep water and other molecules from exiting the cell. So it's another layer of selective permeability because this thing has pores in it, which will allow some things in and out, but it helps protect against it helps protect the structure of some types of cells, particularly plant cells. You're going to find a cell wall in different types of organisms. You'll find them in prokaryotes. You'll find them in plants. You'll find them in fungi. That's where you're going to typically find these cell walls. Of course, in plants, you should know the name of this is cellulose. But that's pretty much it for this unit. Just know basically the types of molecules that can diffuse passively through this membrane in a process called diffusion. Know which molecules require a transport protein to make it through this membrane. And also understand that some organisms have something called a cell wall lying on the outside that helps to maintain structural integrity when you have water coming in or something like that. And helps is another layer of selective permeability because this has little tiny pores in it. Okay, I will leave it here until next video.